In a moment captured in an unplanned but immediate moment that caught the world's attention, Jungkook, the youngest member of global group BTS, finally revealed a sadness that he had been keeping tight, and he did it directly in Jin's presence. This is not just an ordinary emotional moment, but a turning point that shows how the emotional pressure and internal dynamics in a BTS class group are not always visible on the surface. In no more than 10 minutes, the mood changed dramatically, and the public is now wondering, what exactly is happening behind the confession? This shocking statement came during a private break session in an unofficial activity that was not originally intended for public consumption. However, one of the internal staff from the close environment of the agency said that the interaction contained an unusual emotional charge. Jungkook seemed to take a deep breath, and in a deep voice, he began to convey to Jin something that had only been suppressed so far: the mental stress caused by the public's excessive expectations, the sense of loss of direction post-enlistment, and the silent tension that had formed since the group faced individual transitions. This recognition instantly provoked internal anxiety and external speculation. Jin, known as the oldest young and a stable figure among the members, not only listened, but reacted in an unexpected way. He was silent for quite a while before finally looking up at Jungkook and saying, "You shouldn't have endured this alone." The simple sentence, according to the witness, was pronounced with a trembling voice and a look of eyes full of pain. The reaction marked a depth to the relationship that may never have been publicly displayed. What makes Jungkook's recognition so jarring is the fact that he has always been known as a pressure-bearing figure, able to maintain a positive expression even amid tight schedules and unreasonable expectations from the industry and global fandom. But in his confession to Jin, Jungkook mentioned that there was a sense of frustration that he had harbored over the past few months, especially after some of HYB's managerial decisions that were felt to limit his personal expression. He said that although he loves his fans, he often feels like a commercial product that has lost its humanity. This statement indirectly alludes to a concern that has only been discussed among industry analysts, that big idols like BTS, despite being treated like gods in the public eye, are actually also humans who can get tired, feel trapped, and even lose control of their personal lives. Jungkook's emotional expression in such a short period of time, according to several internal sources, has sparked deep discussions within the agency, including an evaluation of the workload and creative control structure applied to the artist. An important question now arises. Is this a sign that Jungkook is beginning to feel the limits of the burden that has been denied by the public image? Or is it a form of latent pressure that finally explodes after so long of holding? To be sure, Jin's response to that moment marked the seriousness of the situation they were facing personally. Beyond the camera spotlight, the grand concert, and the army cheers around the world. Meanwhile, the HYB party has not given an official statement regarding this event. However, a wave of reactions from the public began to appear. On various online platforms, keywords such as Jungkook crying, Jin comforting Jungkook, and HYB pressure BTS started trending in less than an hour after news of the emotional interaction spread. Even some analysts of the Korean entertainment industry began to warn that the current mental health conditions of idols require greater attention from the agency. Not just the slogan, artist well-being, which is often part of the image of publications, and on the other hand, the global BTS fan community is divided. Some felt angry because they felt HYB had put too much pressure on their artists, while others tried to be neutral and support internal decisions without over-inferring. But one thing cannot be ignored. Jungkook's statement came from the heart, not a script, not an interview session prepared by PR, but purely a conversation between two people who have been supporting each other in silence. South Korean public communication expert Professor Lee Hyun-woo of Yonsei University stated that moments like this have a double impact. In a way, This is an alarm to the industry that idols' emotional health cannot continue to be ignored. On the other hand, it shows the public that public figures also have very real emotional boundaries, just like ordinary people. What makes this event even more complex is the fact that the moment only lasts about 10 minutes, but leaves a long wave that cannot necessarily be immediately muted. There are no professional cameras filming, no reporters on site, but in an age of intense social media and digital fandom culture, a private conversation can turn into a global topic in minutes. Will Jungkook's confession be followed by an official statement on the part of Jin or even HYB? Will this be the beginning of a restructuring in the management of the artists under the auspices of the major label? Or precisely, as some analysts fear, will this be swept under the carpet as a momentary emotional moment with no concrete follow-up? One thing is clear. The public is now witnessing the human side of a Jungkook who has always looked unshakable. And in a situation like this, not only are fans required to understand, but the entertainment industry as a whole is also faced with ethical questions that are increasingly difficult to avoid. However, in the fast-paced and biased atmosphere of digital media, there is one big question that we should all be asking ourselves. Did Jungkook's emotional confession to Jin really come to pass? Or is this just the result of narrative construction used by certain parties to create a broad wave of public attention? It should be noted that the initial information about this event did not come from official statements, nor from verified live broadcasts or open interviews, but from internal recordings that were not uploaded by BTS or HYB labels' official channels. The piece of information first surfaced through fandom accounts on TikTok and YouTube, then quickly spread to X, formerly Twitter, sparking speculation and claims without a fully verifiable source. In fact, some of the narratives were rewritten and shared in a style as if they were from professional journalists, while none included clear quotes. This is where the public is required not only to be consumers of information, but also to be active critics. Why is there no official statement from HYB if this moment really has such an internal impact? Why are only Jin and Jungkook mentioned in the narrative, while there is no confirmation from managers, fellow members, or any verifiable credible source? Furthermore, don't we need to ask, why do these so private and emotional moments actually appear in the format of 15-second pieces of TikTok videos? How is it possible for a camera to record such a personal moment without the artist's knowledge? Isn't BTS known for maintaining internal privacy, especially regarding emotional issues and personal relationships between members? This is not the first time the public has been led on a narrative that touches on the emotional side only to discover later that much of the information has been manipulated for the sake of achieving the goal of virality. In this context, we must ask a sharper question. Is it possible that Jungkook's grief is real, but his storytelling has been reframed to evoke excess sympathy and reinforce fandom loyalty? Or is this a covert marketing ploy used by external parties to exploit the emotional gap that exists between artists and their fans? These kinds of questions are important because today's public is particularly vulnerable to the illusion of emotional closeness that is actually controlled by social media algorithms and perception management strategies. On the other hand, fandoms like ARMY are one of the most massive digital forces in the world. Any information that touches on the emotional aspects of Jungkook or Jin will quickly become widespread, even without any obligation to verify the primary source. Nor can we turn a blind eye to the possibility that this information could be a form of structured hoax, or rather, fiction control content. A narrative deliberately blurred between fact and fiction in order to create an alternative reality in the public mind. In this case, the use of terms such as finally crying, buried too long, or restricted by HYB not only has emotional power, but also implies that there is an injustice to blame, without actually providing concrete evidence of who is responsible. So, how should we handle all this? First, Acknowledge that information circulating on social media, even if accompanied by video or audio, cannot necessarily be considered absolute truth. Videos can be edited, sounds can be rearranged, and narratives can be constructed with goals we don't realize.